All right. So what are we talking about today? Well, today, let me mute everybody. I'm just going to mute you guys just to make sure. There, I did a mute all. You guys can unmute yourself if you need to break in and ask a question. Let me make sure that I'm using the right microphone as well. I am. I actually have four microphones to choose from with my setup here. It's weird, but I always have to make sure I'm using the right one, and I am. So today we're going to talk about how you can run a thriving real estate practice in 4 hours a day or less. Okay, 4 hours a day or less. Now, if you want to make so my own story, I got into real estate. I took 21 listings my first 74 days in the business, and then I went on to take over 1,000 listings my first 10 years in real estate. And I was always asking the question, who should be doing this? How can I do less? Okay. And so that's a question that we're going to talk, that's going to be a theme that's going to keep coming up today. We're going to talk about it more and more because I want you guys to be asking those questions as well. I'm looking at the chat box. Maybe I should have, because you, Rebecca says, fill me in. I'm going to share with you my own story right now. So when I was 45, I'm 50 years old right now, but when I was 45, my wife and I were blessed to be able to pay off our house, the house that we live in right now. So we paid. I mean, I still remember going to closing and paying it off. And so it was kind of it was very interesting. It was an interesting process. But when I bought this house, I had a lot of stuff on my credit report. So I had my bankruptcy, I think, was already off my credit report at that time, but I had a foreclosure. I let one of my homes foreclose and so on during the dark ages of real estate, 2008 to whatever. And so I bought this house on a wraparound mortgage, the one that I'm in right now. So that mortgage had a 5-year balloon. And Rebecca Wooten, you know what I'm talking about, those wraparounds. And so the end of 5 years, this puppy was due. So I still remember going to the closing. I went to Wally Tingley and Associates here in Austin. I had my cashier's check ready, or I'm not sure if we wired them. I think we wired the money, and it was paid off. So I told myself, I'm done. I'm done with selling real estate. I'm just gonna, just gonna teach, train, coach, do the stuff I love to do on stage. Well, a funny thing happens when you retire from this game. Any of you guys that have done it, even though you think you retired from the game, you've got friends and family and people that love the way you do business. So you're still going to do deals. So every single deal, single year since I've capped, the last 5 years, every single year since I retired, I've capped. I should say it that way. Every single year since I retired, I've capped. So what does that mean? That means I've earned over 100,000 in commissions every year since I stopped selling real estate. And it could be referrals, or it could be just deals that I do locally. But right now, I spend about 4 to 5 hours a week, if that. I don't think I spend that much time to earn about 120,000 a year. Now, when I was making more money than that, I was making 5, 6, 700 a year. I was working even less. I worked about 3 hours a week, maybe in real estate, if that, maybe not even that much. In fact, I just recently did a interview with Hollis Dean, who was my operations manager at the Knolly team from 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. He was our operations manager. We were doing 120, 130, 140, or 150 deals a year, and I just wasn't working very much. And so I'm going to share with you guys how to do that. And you don't have to give up money to do that. Okay. So how would you like to work 4 hours a day or less, make your 6 figures, either 100,000 or 250,000, whichever you pick, 4 hours a day, have nights and weekends off, 4 to 5 vacations a year, and be debt free? How'd you like that? Raise your hand. Anybody, let me see if there's any yeses in the chat. Somebody says, yeah, me, hello. Somebody says, yes, sure. Now, a lot of people don't think this is possible, but it's the life that I live. And actually, when I brought Hollis Dean on, he was able to confirm with me on that, man, it's easier than we think. But you've got to use leverage. Okay, this is a highly leveraged concept. So, all right, so I'm getting it. Sam says absolutely. Judy says heck yes. Whitney's like heck yeah. Somebody's like let's go. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share with you guys how to do this. It's a lot easier than you think. Okay, it's a lot easier than you think. So let me. So this is. Let me close out a few things here. Okay, so this is how to run. Now, if you have a question for me while I'm going through the presentation, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can just put it in the chat and I will get to it, okay? So how to run a thriving real estate business while working just 4 hours a day or less? Now, the problem or the issue with many of us is that we just work too much. I mean, we're so passionate. We love real estate. We love this business that we're in. But there is a such thing as overworking, okay, where you're working too much. Like I understand you're excited about the real estate business, but you can rechannel that passion into something else. It was years ago. See, I used to be a workaholic, and it was years ago. I think it was 2008. I went on my first cruise, and that helped break me of this workaholism. I liked going out and seeing things around the world. And then after that, I just started traveling. And, what it is you rechannel. Now, some of you guys aren't there yet because you're like, no, I need to do some deals first. We talked about the training balance scale in a coaching session that I had earlier. Phenomenal. I mean, here's the thing. Let me share this with you. In this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Joseph Murphy says that one of the chief reasons for failure, there's two reasons that he gives, but one of the chief reasons is too much effort. Okay, too much effort. The other one's lack of belief, but too much effort is another reason for failure. You're putting too much into this and you don't have to. So let's look at it. Before we do, I want to acknowledge our new Mentorship Masters members. We've got Tiana, that was brought to us by Hollis Dean. We've got Leland, brought to us by Will Gilliam. We got Anthony West, brought to us by Eric Garris. And then I brought on Andrea Hayes. She's on the call today. We got Ira Wright. We've got Emmanuel. We've got Lisa that joined us, and Letitia and Somerville. And then we've got Diana Kim, brought to us by Mina Slaughter. We've got Walter Haas, who was brought to us by Julie Green. And then we've got Sarah Dwyer, brought to us by Tanika Bearfield. So thank you guys for bringing, we want more and more masters. So that's the reason why we invented the Mentorship Masters Ambassadors, because you guys are out there bringing them. We appreciate you for doing that. Here are our Masters of the Month, okay? These are some of the ones that the ones that have already capped at 100%. We've got more that have capped at 100%. They're 100% commission already, and they're enjoying the fruits of cap. 100% commission. Get your hands off my money. Get your hand out of my pocket, right? So they're enjoying the fruits of that. And then we've got our ambassadors. So if you brought in one or more members to the group, you have become an official Mentorship Masters ambassador. And some of you guys aren't here yet. We're gonna sometime in the middle of this month, August, we'll announce you. So we thank you guys for helping grow this group. We need more and more agents here so that they can experience a different way of being, a different way of selling, and a different way of success. So remember, you've got a support guy out there. If you ever need help, you can always reach out to me. But then we've got Chris Capistrano. He's been on my team for 6 years, and he's here to help. That's his phone number and his email address. Super simple. And if you ever forget how to contact him, just go into our Mentorship Masters portal, and his contact information is right there as well. All right, so I received a question from a pastor that's at EXP. He's an agent at EXP, and he's also a pastor. And this is what he asked me. He says, how do I run a real estate business so that it does not interfere with my ministry? That's a great question. A lot of times you guys would be probably surprised at how many people reach out to me that are not in Mentorship Masters, and I try to help them as much as I can. But this is a big question, okay? This is like a coaching session. It's like, so, I send people my rates and they're like, because I'm very expensive. My time is very costly. So what I told this pastor, I don't mention his name because he said it as a private message. But what I shared with them was that I'll go ahead and do a video on it, which I didn't even intend to bring it here, but then I got another similar question to this. Actually got two more questions very similar to this past week. So let's look at the question. How do I run a real estate business so that it does not interfere with my ministry? It's been said that the quality of your life can be determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. Okay? The kind of life you live, the quality of your life can be determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. And oftentimes when people ask questions, they really don't, they're not very articulate, and sometimes they really don't know what to ask. And this is an example. So when someone is asking me, how do I run a real estate business so that it does not interfere with my ministry? I mean, there's so many questions around that. So what does that mean? Like, what do you mean interfere? How much time are you currently working in your ministry that you want to continue? And how much time can you dedicate to real estate? What are your goals? How much production do you want to do? How much money do you want to earn while keeping with this ministry? I had a teacher a long time ago. He told me, Knolly, it's hard to ride two horses at the same time because inevitably we're going to fall off one of them. So we do have to have clarity of focus. But here's the thing. Here's what I believe. Your real estate career is a conduit to your passion. Okay. So whatever your passion is can be realized through your real estate career. Now, I talk about that in my book, Success with Listings, Chapter 3. So if you've forgotten that, let me see if I have a copy of it handy. Yeah, if you've forgotten what that's about, my challenge to you is this week, go back out and read Chapter 3 of Success with Listings, where I really talk about the definition of success. Okay, it's called Setting and Reaching Your Goals. That's the name of this particular chapter. So go back and read that. So that's a great question. And if there's any of you guys out there that are doing something where you want to have maybe a ministry or something else that you do, like I like to travel. That's like I used to do it full time till COVID hit, and semi full time. Come home for my house was like a sort of a base camp, if you will. So that was one question. Then I got this question just 2 days ago from Dana Hood, and this is in our Knolly Success Coaching Group. She asked two questions. Two questions, if anyone can answer. One, is Mentorship Masters only for people in EXP? So the answer to that is no. Mentorship Masters is only for people in my revenue share group at EXP. So that's, Mentorship Masters is my revenue share group at EXP. So that answers that question. And then the second question she asked is, and listen to the question. We're not going to pick on Dana, but I think this is a great exercise in us getting better with the way that we ask certain questions. So here's the question. What do you think? This is the opinion. Is a reasonable number of deals that an individual agent without a team or virtual assistant can successfully close and still have a full life of non-real estate stuff each month? Okay. So I'm going to pose that question out to you guys, to my masters, because the question itself led me to understand that I needed to do a training around this. Okay. I needed to do a training around it. Here's a question. I'm looking at this at my whiteboard over here. And the question that I ask anytime that I present myself to you guys, and I thank you for your time, is what is in the highest and best good for your children? This is the question that I ask God Almighty. I come to God, I say, God, what is in the highest and best interest for your children? In other words, what do your kids need to learn? Okay. What do I need to learn? And so when I present these, we all have a hand in it because, you guys help me to know what to teach. Okay. So let me hear y'all's thoughts on it. Her question number 2, what do you think is a reasonable number of deals that an individual agent without a team or virtual assistant can successfully close and still have a full life of non-real estate stuff? Okay, hit me up in the chat box. What do y'all think? Mina says she gave her answer on the post. You probably saw my answer too, Mina. So you don't get to weigh in on it. And by the way, there's really no right answer. Mina says, yeah, I saw your answer. There really is no right answer, guys. And this is not a case of me being right and you and somebody else being wrong. It's just perspective. It's just a view. Okay, it says, Ira says it depends on the agent's goals. Okay, who else? Who else wants to weigh in on this? There's no wrong answers in my class. Please share the crystal ball. Rebecca just wants me to share. I want you guys to think. See, this is part of the reason why we call this Mentorship Masters, why you guys are putting your answers in. The reason why we call this Mentorship Masters is because if it was just me, it'd be called Mentorship Master. I'm not the master, guys. You are the masters. Okay, remember when Jesus said, who's the light of the world? That's a trick question. Who did Jesus say was the light of the world? That's a trick question. I'll just leave it at that. Rebecca said Jesus is the light of the world. Well, Jesus said it differently. He said, you are the light of the world. Okay. Now we say Jesus is the light of the world, and that's true, but Jesus said it differently. Jesus said, you are the light of the world. A city put on a hilltop cannot be hidden. He says, you, Rebecca, are the light of the world. He didn't refer to himself as the light of the world. He said, you are. So again, these are subtle nuances that a lot of people miss. Rebecca says, I work 24/7. That's not good. I'm just going to tell you. Let me just throw this out there, just so you guys understand, work is a curse. Let me say it again. Work is a curse, okay? So that's part of the Adamic curse. The work, see, when God placed man in the world, in the earth, we tended the garden, okay? But we just, I don't know if we were aristocrats or what, but after the fall of man, God made this proclamation. He says, by the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread. You know, cursed is the ground, thorns and thistles shall it bear unto you. So essentially, work as we know it is a curse. We were not put on this world to work. Do you think that those of you that believe in heaven, do you think when you get to heaven, you're just going to be working? See, it's not part of the original way. So it's easy to get out of balance, okay? But it's easy to get back into balance. Okay, so 24 deals for individual agent. We need balance, very important, okay? Rebecca says, I would love to do full-time ministry again and only work 4 hours a day. That'd be great. Yeah, you can. I'm gonna show you how to do that today. Okay, so that's all the participation you guys are giving me. So I'm gonna share with you, let's break the question down. What do you think, opinion, is a reasonable number of deals that an individual agent without a team or virtual assistant can successfully close and still have a full life? My answer to that is 0, okay? 0. Remember, the quality of the questions that you ask determines the quality of the life that you live here in this plane, okay? So in my view, see, most of us come at this life with a false premise, okay? My premise is that I was not created to work, okay? Do you think that God created us to be slaves, that he just has children? Like is your only reason? Think about you mothers out there, you dads out there. When you created children, was the purpose of creating those kids so that they could work for you or to be slaves to you? No. What would be the ultimate purpose? Why? Because you just wanted to have fun with them. You wanted to have offspring. That was what, God led you to do. That was the design. But it's not, work is something that should be pleasant, should be fun, but it should not be all consuming. So when you look at the question, what is a reasonable number of deals that an individual agent without a team or virtual assistant? That's where you go wrong right away. Nobody succeeds alone. Let me say it again. Nobody succeeds alone. So the question is, how do I succeed by myself? The answer, you can't. You will not. You will not succeed by yourself. Now, here's the truth. You could do a number of deals by yourself if you're highly talented. Let's say you did 20, 30, 40 deals. You do all the paperwork, you file everything, you upload everything, you do your own photos of whatever, you do everything, okay? You have no help. But that is the fast track to burnout. That is not a 20, 30, 40-year career, okay? You will burn out if you do everything. You will, okay? It's just inevitable because we see, man, this is what God proclaimed in Genesis: man was not made to be alone, to live alone. That's what he told Adam. Man was not made. So when they looked down, they said, man was not made to be alone, okay? We do not succeed alone. We can't. So how many can you successfully close and still have a full life of non-real estate stuff? To me, you can't. And here's why. I want you to write this word down: Mindshare. Mindshare. I'm going to have you write a few things down, then I'm going to explain them. Okay. And then write this down: cost of aggravation. I got my delicious watermelon juice rocking, y'all. Ooh, it's so good. Cost of aggravation. Okay. So let's talk about this for a minute. Let me stop my share so I can talk about it, because we're going to get into how to run a thriving real estate business while working just 4 hours a day. So first of all, we're going to talk about Mindshare. Now, most people believe that just because they're talented in a lot of areas and they can juggle a lot of balls, that means that they should be doing everything in their business. When in reality, if they would only fast forward, they would, number one, they would see there is a better way. And number two, they would see that nobody succeeds alone, okay? And number three, they would see that the mind share, what they're giving up from a standpoint of their mind, is not worth the trade-off. Let me explain that. Most people just discredit this completely. So mind share is, so we have, as a Homo sapien race, we have a conscious and a subconscious mind. That's been scientifically proven. We actually, as a species, have multiple brains as well. That's a whole nother topic. So we have a subconscious mind that essentially does about 88% of the daily processes. So for example, I'm in front of my MacBook, and so there are things going on behind the scenes. If I was to pull up and see what the processes are going on, there are hundreds of processes going on with my processors in this machine, okay, that are subconscious. They're in the background. Then there's conscious things. So the conscious mind is 12% of your daily activities, while the subconscious is 88%. Anytime that you have something on your plate, it is occupying your subconscious mind, whether you're focused on it or not. So for example, if you do your own contract to close, okay, you might say, well, I'm not going to pay somebody to do contract to close because that only takes me 3 to 4 hours on every transaction. But what you don't understand is two things. Number one, the cost of aggravation is number two. And number one is Mindshare. So the fact that you have that in your mind, your reticular activator in your brain is focused on that, even though you're not focused on it consciously. Okay, you're not consciously focusing. Because what happens when all of a sudden you have let's say you have a task to do and it's weighing on you. Like for example, those of us that waited last minute to do our taxes, some of y'all probably still haven't done them. That's all right. I ain't mad at you. I don't like the tax man either. So but here's the thing: even though you're not physically doing your taxes, it's in your subconscious mind, and it's weighing on you, whether you could see it or not. So the fact that you actually are doing your own contract to close is costing you more than 3 or 4 hours per transaction. Okay. When I hired my first assistant to take over contract to close, it was completely, that's what you call scraping it off your plate. It no longer was in my field of consciousness. It was no longer part of my paradigm. It was gone. Okay. Now I still had to oversee that. It's still part of my operation. But when I got a competent person to handle that task, it was no longer in my consciousness. And that freed my mind up to be more creative in other areas. See, you can't get away from this. Just like the computer processor, let's say, for example, I just edited a big video. And then I've got that video editing in the background. Now all of a sudden, I'm trying to do Zoom and other stuff, and I don't have any memory. I'm like, man, why is this computer going so slow? It's the same thing that's happening to you because you got everything on your plate and you're juggling everything. See, when you do a listing, for example, I'm going to give you an example of this. This is on my team. This is everything that goes on into a retail listing. Okay, you guys have all these papers in the Mentorship Masters portal, but this is everything that goes into a listing. Now, if I know that I have to do all these things, okay, subconsciously I know this. It may be out of my field of awareness, but this is bogging down my mind and I'm no longer creative. And now guess what? That great Facebook ad that I would have come up with if I didn't have all this crap bogging me down, I don't come up with it. My creativity, I'm not sleeping right. I'm irritable. Why? Because that stuff is in the subconscious mind, okay? So the reality is you have got to, as soon as possible, you've got to partner with people who are strong in the areas where you are weak. Let me say it again. You have to understand where you are weak, and you have to partner with others who are strong in those areas. And this is what I tell real estate agents now. Because I used to teach that, hey, you wait until you got about 20 or 30 deals, then you hire somebody. No, I don't teach that anymore. I tell them, for the new agents watching this, and those of you that have been doing it differently, what I say is do 3 transactions from start to finish. Do it all. And then hire people. From that point on, and if you want to know how to hire, on our last coaching session, we talked about how to hire an administrative assistant. In the very beginning, you're just going to hire somebody per transaction, okay? And you're going to have a transaction fee of $5.95. That's what I charge. And I've taught you guys how to work that into your business model. So you charge $5.95 on every transaction. Every real estate, you could do it on buyers and sellers, both. But for sure on listings, it's super easy. Buyers is easy too. It's a different methodology. But you have your $5.95 fee that you charge, and then you pay, that frees you up to pay somebody $3.95, $3.50, whatever they charge for doing contract to close. You've got to get that off your plate so that it's not in your field of subconscious. It can't be in your subconscious mind. Now, with that having said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to focus the first 2 hours of your day on what? Let me check the chat box. I know you guys know this one. Y'all know this one already. Do the 2. Lead gen, baby. There it is. Y'all already know that. Okay, good. High five. So you already know what you're doing with your first 2 hours. Okay, that's 9 to 11. Now, what are you doing with the other 2 hours of your day? Let me see what y'all have for me. Yeah, Charles Lee says, I love the transaction fee. See, that's something a lot of people don't take advantage of. I was doing that for my very first listing. My mentor taught me that. Follow-up and appointments, yeah. Rebecca says working. You stuck on working, Rebecca. We're gonna tame you of that. We need to get you in some art classes or something, some voice lessons or something else. Okay, follow up, yeah. Sleeping. I like that, Charles. That's good. Exercise. Okay, you guys are getting giddy. All right, so more lead gen. No. Lead generation is only 2 hours a day. See, this is another mistake that agents make. I did over 1,000. Raise your hand if you did 1,000 deals in the last 10 years. Okay, if I'm the only one in the room, I'm qualified to speak on this. The reality is most people think that you have to lead generate. See, when you become a master of your craft, you actually lead generate less, not more. Okay. I was talking to a guy recently. He was like, man, I'm on, I said, are you doing the 2? He says, I'm 6 hours into doing the 2. I'm like, well, what about do the 2 did you miss? It's 2 hours. Why? Because here's what you want. When you do the 2, you have a hard stop. Okay. What that means is you're doing the 2 from 9 o'clock to 11. That's 2. You have lead generation. You can only do 3 things. Basically you're generating leads. Okay, you're following up with existing leads, or you're creating and implementing marketing plans. Those are the only 3 things you can do during the do the 2. Okay, you already know that. Now that's from 9 to 11. Now, if you go from 9 to 4 or 9 to people do this, but what happens is they burn out. In other words, They're rocking and rolling for 2 months, and then they do nothing for 2 months. They do a bunch of deals for 3 months, and then they do nothing for the rest of the year. What we're talking about is slow and steady wins the race. Okay, it's time on the task over time beats hard work every time. Okay, time on the task over time. So it's not about how much you do. That's not how you succeed. It's consistency. Okay, and so what you got to think about is just like if you're watching a network, you know, a lot of people binge watch Netflix, but imagine you watch 2 episodes of your favorite, you know, series. You watch 2 episodes. What's going to happen the next day? You're going to be excited to go watch the next episode. Now, you could binge watch it. You could binge lead gen, okay? But you're going to be burnt out. The reason why I was able to those of us that are in the game that are what we call mega agents, okay, icons, whatever you want to call us. The reason why we do this every year in, year out, just like clockwork, is because we don't burn ourselves out. Okay, you can't burn, if you continue to do lead generation for, you know, that's like when people used to take bold. Bold is not sustainable. If you've ever taken bold, you know it's something you can do for a few weeks, but it's not sustainable because you can't live that way. Okay, that's like pedal to the metal, mash down 8 hours a day. It's impossible. So what I want you to do is do the 2. That way, tomorrow, when you go, you're excited. Like when you cut off, you should be upset that you're at the end of your lead generation time. Okay. You put a hard stop to it, and then you can't wait till lead generation time is again. Okay. So the next day you're like, is it lead gen? Oh, it's only 8 o'clock. Crap, I got to wait. See, this is what we call discipline. Write it down. Discipline. 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 Okay. When you look at the word discipline, what do you see? What word do you see? Discipline. You know, my mom was telling me the other day because she had a surgery, and I said, "Mom, are you doing the physical therapy?" That was her response. She started laughing. Now, what's that mean? She's not doing the work. I said, "Mom, you got to have discipline." Okay, physical therapy. If you don't do your physical therapy, you're going to lose your movement. Okay, what do you see in the word discipline? Disciple. Okay, disciple. You have to have discipline, guys. Okay, discipline is time on the task over time beats hard work every time. So your first few hours from 9 to 11, you come to a hard stop when 11 o'clock hits. You might go to 11:10, 11:15. Okay, stop and leave it for the next day. Now in the afternoons, you're doing appointments. That's it. Lead gen in the morning, appointments in the afternoon. Now let's look at that. Let's see what that looks like. Now, if you're not doing this, you're not succeeding. Period. You cannot not do what I'm teaching and succeed in this game. At the very least, you will not be succeeding at your highest level ever. Okay. If you want to figure out how to avoid feast or famine, in other words, you want to when things are. See, I don't live in feast or famine. I'm always feasting. It's always around my house is always a feast. I have no budget. By the way, people say, and I love Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, like, you got to get on a budget. I haven't been on a budget in 10 years. I don't know what a budget is. I buy what I want and I don't buy what I don't want. Okay. I don't have budget. I don't have a budget. I have not had a budget. Now, don't go out there teaching that to everybody. And I do agree that, yes, you got to live. I live within my means. I live on about 40% of my income. So I'm very, I'm smart. Okay. But I don't live on a budget. Now, let me just share with you guys, and then I'm going to open it up for any questions. I'm going to share with you what the afternoon's going to look like. You already know what the morning looks like. This is the afternoon. So if you want to do, let me know how many of you guys want to do 100,000. Put it in the chat, 100K. And those of you that want to do 250K, put that in the chat because it doesn't really matter. You can still do it on 4 hours a day. Let me see. Let me look at the chat box. I want to see. Oh, I can't see the chat here. Let me see. Let me open it up. Okay, so if you want to do 100K, so okay, somebody says 125. Okay, that's cool. 300. Mina says 300. 250. 250. Charles wants 250. Rebecca put a big old number in there. I don't even, that's like $1 billion. Let me see. Judy wants 400K. Okay. 250. Now, whenever you get to 500 or more, you just need more leverage. Okay. Cause that's where I was for many years. Ira wants 2.5 million. Okay. And by the way, when you get into numbers like that, then I'm going to start talking to you and saying, if you really want 2.5 million a year, you need to be looking at revenue share. Because, you know, Curtis Johnson, who's he's like 2 above me. That's what he's making about 150,000 a month. And if you want that kind of money, you don't want to be selling houses to make that kind of money, because that you can make that kind of money selling houses. Like Kevin and Fred, who are my sponsor, Kevin Kaufman, they sell 400 homes a year. Okay, so they do $100 million. They have a $100 million team. But if you really want the real money, like we call it, but for now, for those of you guys that are just if you're already at 100,000, let me know. If you're already at 100 or 250, is anybody here already at that? You want to go to 500? Because we could do those numbers too. If you're already maxing these numbers out, let me know. But let's look at, okay, so let's look at 100,000, because a lot of you think 100,000. I don't know how anybody can live on $100,000. I couldn't do it. I mean, I could do it if God forced me to, but so far I haven't been forced to do that. And so, you know, when I was in the music business, I was making 150,000 a month in that business. There was a lot of expenses, but really what you earn is your choice. Okay, so let's look at it. To net 100,000, you'd have to bring in 116, and then your cap is 16,000. That means you take home 100,000. What that also means is that your split to EXP is 86%. Remember, at EXP, the most you'll pay is 80%. Okay, it could be anywhere from 80 to 100%. And actually, I make more than 100% being at EXP, so I'm super happy. Now, let's say your average commission is 3%. Your average sale price is 300,000. This is what your goals are. Okay. You're going to have to take 14 listings a year. Now, you mean to tell me that it's going to take you more than, now let's just look at this for a minute. 14 listings a year will get you 100,000 in your bank account. Okay. That means you're going to have to, let's say you're going to have to go on 18 appointments in order, based on these calculations. You're going to have to go on 18 appointments. Sorry, this thing is jumping around on you. So let's look at that for a second. Now, I'm giving you how many hours in the afternoon to do appointments? 2 hours, right? So that's 2 hours times 5. That's 10. Now, how long does it take to do a listing appointment? How long are you guys taking on those? Let me see what you guys are saying. Hour and a half, 2 hours, 1 hour. Okay, an hour. Mina says an hour. So let's give you, Rebecca says 2 hours. Pre-COVID was 2 hours, Pamela says. And by the way, there are ways to get your listing appointment down to a science to where it takes less time. But some of you guys just like being around people. So, and I get that. Okay, so let's say you get to go on 1 listing appointment a day. Some of you guys are saying 1 hour. Some are saying 2 hours. So let's just say you do it. It takes you 15 minutes to get there, 15 minutes to get back, and you work for an hour. You go on an appointment for an hour and a half. So how many appointments could you go on if I'm giving you 2 hours every afternoon? How many appointments could you go on? 5, right? You can go on 1 every day. So let's look. What's 5 times 50? 5 times 50 is what? 250. So you could actually, with the time that I'm actually giving you, I'm allocating toward your budget. The afternoon time is 50 times 50, with 50 weeks times 10 hours. Is that right? Yeah, 10 hours a week. That's how much? 500 hours? Okay, divide that by 2 hours per appointment. That's 250 appointments. How many am I asking you to go on to get 100,000? 18. Okay, so you got enough time to go on 250 appointments. but I'm only asking you to go on 18 of them. Now, what are you doing with the rest of the time? Whatever else you want to do. Okay. Shouldn't take more than 2 hours, because guess what? You're doing zero paperwork. You're doing zero contract to close. You're only allowed to do dollar productive activities. If you want to work 4 hours a day, you can only do dollar productive activities. Okay. And I'll talk to you about what those are in a minute. So you can go on 250 appointments based on the time that you're getting, but you only have to go on 18. Is this starting to sound doable? Let's look at 250. Let's say you want to do 250,000. Now, with a $250,000 net in your pocket, that means that you brought in 266,000 GCI, 16,000 paid to EXP. That's 94% of your commission. So really, you're on a 94-6 split at that point. Okay, at a 350 sale price, average price. Okay, you say, well, Knolly, my average sale price isn't that high. Well, bring it up. Start working some better zip codes. Now, you could bring it down if you chose to. You could bring it down to 250 and your numbers would change. You could do that, but I'm going to keep it at 350. Now, your annual listings taken goal is 28. That means in order to get 28 listings, you go on 35 appointments. That's with the assumption that you get 80% of your 80% of the appointments that you go on convert to a transaction. Now, if you have low conversion rates, you've got a whole nother set of issues that we have to address. But assuming that you're using all my systems, my tools, my pre-listing package, you have a pre-listing video that's rocking, you've got your pre-listing book, okay, you've got everything that I teach, and you're using my scripts and my system and everything, then you should be able to get away with at least 80 or 90% of your deals to close, okay? I mean, your appointments to close for signature. So what that means is that you're gonna go on 35 appointments to make 250,000, okay? 35 appointments. Now, we've already talked about that you have enough time to go on 250 appointments. Am I doing the math on that right, or am I off? Let me make sure I'm doing the math on that. So you got 10 hours a week at 52 weeks, divided by 2 hours. Yeah, you can go on 250, 260 appointments. Now, obviously you're going to be taking time off, so I'm exaggerating this, but literally you could go on 250 appointments with your 2 hours every afternoon, okay? And this only supposes that you have to go on, like, how many appointments would you have to go on every month? In this case, you only have to take 2.3 listings a month, okay? Or your monthly appointments that are required is right at 3 appointments. So you would need to go on 3 appointments a month, yet you have the time to go on one every single day with that 2 hours that I gave you. Okay, so you can do 5 appointments a week. There's an average of 22 work days in a week. So you literally could go on 22 appointments. You could go, 22 appointments a month, and I'm only asking you to go on 3. Let me say it again. You could go on 22 appointments a month with this model that I'm giving you, and I'm only asking you to go on 3 appointments. Now, share with me how it's possible for you not to hit these numbers. I can't see it. The only thing that's bogging you up, okay, remember I talked about, I would talk about the cost of aggravation. The cost of aggravation is, my coach used to tell me all the time, Mike Fleming, I would say, well, no, Mike, I'm just going to do that myself. He said, Knolly, I understand that you can save $200 by doing that yourself, but what is the cost of aggravation? I'm like, what is that? He said, yeah, the cost of aggravation, the cost of you having to physically do it, you having to have it on your mind, you having to go to bed with it, you having to get the emails from corporate saying your paperwork's not in, you having to go, figure out, track down signatures, you have to put stuff in Dropbox, you have to drive to the listing because somebody didn't do their job, you have to do all this crap. It's what we call the cost of aggravation. Yeah, you saved $300, but what was the cost of aggravation? What was it? Okay, so I really can't see, unless somebody's got something to show me on how, if I'm allowing you to go on 250 appointments and you only have to go on 35, that you can't meet your numbers. And I could keep going on this all the way up to $1 million net commission. Now, when you get, if you were to net $1 million which I've never done $1 million in commissions in 1 year, but I've gotten real close, real close. But that's when you're actually working less. See, the more real estate you sell, the less you have to work. That's the way it should work. Everybody that's at the top of any profession works, less than everyone else. That's just the way it is. That's the way it goes. So here's how that looks. And then I'm going to open up for questions. Is this starting to make sense to you guys? Okay. You do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. And if you're doing anything else outside of generating leads and going on appointments, then you're doing somebody else's job. Okay. You're doing somebody else's job. We already know that if you don't have an assistant, you are one. You guys already know that. So let's look at this retail system, for example. Now, I know this is a little hard to see, but you can go back, you can download this and you can see it. Everything that's not highlighted is the stuff that I do on the team. Okay. And everything that is highlighted is stuff that other people do. Let me tell you some of the things I don't do. Attend closing. Okay. That's not dollar productive. How's it dollar productive to attend a closing? You have somebody that attends the closing and you pay them to attend your closing. When you're running, see, the only way that I can think is in high volume, because I did over 100 deals a year for 10 years in a row. So I can't think. You put me to do 20 deals in a year, that's like moving in slow motion. I don't even know what that is. And that's what I do now, but I just do it in between my travels or stuff, just here and there. So let me read you off the stuff that you would personally be responsible for doing. And by the way, there's 46 steps in my system, and you should only personally be doing 3 to 5 of those steps. Let me say it again. I have a 46-step system of which you should only be doing 3 to 5 of those things. Now, number 1, generate the seller prospect. I want you doing that. Okay, no problem. You can do that. Now I do an initial phone consultation with the seller and set the listing appointment via Zoom. I do that on Zoom. So I used to have my assistant do that. I would never do an initial consultation to a seller. But I understand if you don't have an assistant, like right now, I have a contract to close person, but I don't have an assistant like I used to. When you start doing more volume, you can justify at about 30 or 40 deals a year, you can justify having a assistant, or sometimes even before that, you can have a part-time person. So that's the second thing. And then do a CMA. Now, what comes after that? Draw up the listing docs. I don't do that. Then conduct listing appointment in person, okay, or via Zoom. I like to do them by Zoom a lot. And then get the listing docs signed via DocuSign. So those are 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the front end. The only other thing that I do is I draft the disbursement instructions for the title company. Basically, I tell them where to wire my money. So I send them that. Hey, say, here's my bank account. If they already have it on file, I don't have to do that step. And the last step is a thank you call to the seller. Because remember, if I didn't go to closing, I'm just going to call the seller, thank them, and tie a ribbon. Now, some of you guys can't get over the idea of not going to closing. I stopped going to closings in probably 2000, a long time ago. Long time ago, I stopped going to closings. I wrote this book called Success with Short Sales. Back in the day, some of you guys might remember this. Gary Keller wrote the foreword of the book. And in this book, I introduced the whole concept of not going to closing. This was in 2009. Everybody thought I was nuts till they tried it. If you're closing 100 deals a year, or let's say that year, my last year in production, I closed 153 deals. You think you want to go to 150? Raise your hand. You want to go to 150 closings. Okay. You start thinking of ways to. Sam wants to go to 150 closings. Now I'm going to tell you, if you do, how long do you spend in a closing? About what, an hour? 30 minutes? So then let's say it's 30 minutes. It takes you 20 minutes to get there, 20 minutes to get, let's say you spend an hour and a half per closing. So what is 90 minutes times 150? That's 13,500 minutes, okay? Now let's divide that by 60. That's 225 hours sitting in a closing. 225 hours. If you went on vacation, how much vacation time is that? By 40? That's 6 weeks in closings, okay? That's vacation time, baby. So what I say, now I get it that a lot of you guys, you don't think that anybody can do business other than you. But the reality is, if I was to die tonight, okay, I'm not prophesying anything, but if I was to go home, it wouldn't be 6 weeks before people would even forget my name. They say, who was that guy again? That cowboy. Remember him? Who's that guy? What's his name? See, people forget you just that fast. Okay. You think that you're the only one that can sell real estate or that can work with that client, when in reality, there's people that actually can do a lot of the things that you're doing better than you can. But there are some things that you need to perfect yourself at. And going to closings isn't one of them. You know, I get the whole idea. See, if I'm going to spend an hour with my client, I'd rather not spend an hour at the closing. I'd rather go swoop by their house and hang out with them for an hour. You know, it's just a better use of my time. So, but I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying if you guys want to go to closings, I'm just saying now, in the early days, you got to do all that stuff. But I say as now, and by the way, most of you guys can't, until you have a team, you can't really delegate that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? I mean, what I'm trying to do is get you to $250,000 in your bank account per year. And when you start having money like that, then you can start making kind of bigger decisions like, you know, I think I want to hire people, because if you can make 100, you can make 1,000,000. It's not any harder. Let me say it again. If you can make 100,000, you can make 1,000,000. It's not any harder. All right. The only thing you have to figure out when you're making more money is how to replace yourself. Okay. How can other people do what you're doing, or how can you get other people to do? Now, does this make sense, guys? Has this been helpful? Put in the chat box if you have any questions. Valencia says yes, or Valencia, California Home says yes. And then who else? Whitney says, don't most buyers and sellers want their real estate agent to represent them at closing? See, here's the misconception that most people have. See, my sellers and my buyers will do anything I tell them to do if they understand the reason behind it. So I will always tell my sellers, I say, hey, you know, at the closing table, that's not my specialty. For example, one of the things that I don't do a lot is go look at homes. You know, I list them, but I don't necessarily see them. So I just explain to the client, I'm not good at looking at houses. Well, what do you mean? You mean I'm good at selling them? Yeah, I'm good at selling houses. I'm just not that good at looking at them. But I've got a person on my team that's really good at looking. And then I just send another agent out that's really, really, really good. Because the reality is, like Rebecca Wooten, I work with her a lot. She can run circles around me at looking at a house. That's not my specialty. My specialty is getting the house sold, okay? There's many clients that I've never met. Most of the clients that I've sold their homes, I've never met them ever. I was on you guys might have seen the YouTube video where I was on the plane with a guy, and he kept looking at me. He's like, man, is your name, don't you sell real estate? I said, yeah. He said, you sold my house. I never met the guy. And here we are on a plane together, and I introduced to him for the first time. Because when I had my real estate practice, I never met any of my clients. And so, yeah, people do expect you to go to a closing because they think that's what realtors do. But I explain to my clients, I say, you're going to have a dedicated account representative. Okay. By the way, you guys know my team approach, right? What I use for the team, like an airline. You guys have seen me do that? Yes? No? Yeah. I explained to the client that, you know, just like the captain of the ship, they're not going to see me. It's like when you fly, okay, so some of you guys haven't heard this. So what I explained to the client from the very beginning, the very first time I'm on the phone with them, is I say, you know, Sharonda, I'm going to absolutely get your home sold. You already know, you've heard the rumors. They're all true about how quickly I sell homes. I'm good at it. Okay. But what I'm not good at is these things. And I explain to them what I'm not good at. That's why I have a team. I say, now, have you ever flown on an airplane? They say, yeah, I've flown on an airplane before. I said, now, when you flew on an airplane and you wanted a blanket, did the captain come bring you a blanket? No, the captain didn't. Okay, you wanted a glass of water or maybe a soda? Did the captain bring you a soda? No, I didn't. Did the captain bring you peanuts? Okay, make no mistake about it, Sharonda, I'm the captain of this flight. That's my job. I'm in the cockpit. We're flying this bird to Seoul. That's where we're going, right? We're going to Seoul. That's where we're going. Yeah, that's where we're going, Knolly. Okay, well, I'm going to be in the cockpit. You're not going to see me, but make no mistake about it. I'm flying the plane, but I've got a whole crew, a team that handles all the details. Okay, you need peanuts. You need a blanket, you need an adult beverage, you might need a pillow, you might be uncomfortable during the flight. I got a whole crew that handles all of that. So you're not gonna see me during the flight. Is that okay? Yeah, Knolly, I'm okay. I don't need to see you during the flight. And back in the day, it used to be where the first person you saw on the flight was the captain, and the last person you saw getting off the plane was the captain. So, you could still go to closings if you want to, and it kind of puts a ribbon on everything. But there's a lot of stuff in the middle that you don't have to do. And once your clients understand that you operate as a team, they don't even want to hear from you. They're like, why are you calling me? See, people will do anything that you ask them to do if they understand why you're asking them to do it. So I always tell them, I say, you're going to have a dedicated account representative. Her name is Barbara. And when it comes time to go to closing, she's going to be the one that helps you with that. Is that okay with you? Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, great. See, the client wants to be represented. They don't necessarily need me there, okay? So if I send somebody, a delegate on my behalf, see, the king, back in the medieval times, the king didn't always go on every transaction. In fact, he probably almost never went. But when you saw the king, you knew it was a really big deal. But he would always send a delegate on his behalf that would go out and speak for him. And so we can do the same thing in this business. All right, so that is how you run. For those of you that have been guessing and wondering about this, whenever you're doing something, you need to be asking yourself this question: who should be doing this? Because I can guarantee you 8 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10, the things that you put your hand to do are not even things that you should be focused on. And if you didn't focus on them, it would free you up to generate a whole lot more business, or at least have a lot more fun. Okay, let me see what my problem is. I have to be in control of my negotiating and contracts. That is a problem, because if you let me help you get over that one real quick. Look at how many, anybody that has that issue, what you're saying is you're the only one that knows how to sell real estate. Now, to get over that, just look at how many deals closed in your MLS in the past year. I know in Austin, I did it one year, it was like 25,000. Or I think it was like 14,000 homes sold, which is 2 sides for every house. That's 28,000 transactions, okay? So, and I'm doing like 120, 130 deals, but there's 28,000 transactions. So there's people out there that know how to do what I do, okay? So we really have to get ourselves out of the way, okay? Let me say it again. You've got to get yourself out of the way. The idea that you're the only one that knows how to now I'm not saying you shouldn't negotiate a contract. Negotiating contracts is something that I do as well. Actually, do I have that? I don't even have that on here, because I have, a lot of times I'll use Rebecca because she's better than I am at negotiating contracts. I'll just say it. Most people, let me just say this, most realtors out there are better than me at a lot of things, okay? But it just so happens that my game is tight. I don't know other way to say it. My game is tight. And so I can go out there and outperform and outpace athletes that are better than me, because it's time on the task over time. I'm the turtle. You got to understand, the turtle will always beat the hare. Okay, so that's it, guys. I love you. I hope this has been helpful. If you follow this, I don't care if you don't believe it, if you receive it and you follow it, you'll have the kind of success that you want. All right, over and out. Unmute yourself. Say goodbye. Adios.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Knolly. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Knolly, this was awesome. I receive it.
Excellent session.
Thank you.
I believe and receive.